Welcome back. Social commentator and accountant Richard Pitakin says charges being brought against a former minister in Barbados demonstrate that indeed no one is above the law. He says all public officials given power to make changes on behalf of a country should be held accountable for their actions. Here in St. Lucia, he says laws to penalize lawbreakers are too often not enforced. Genevieve Gonzague has more.
Former Commerce Minister Donville Innes was charged on 2 counts of money laundering and 1 count of conspiracy to commit money laundering on January 16, 2020. The former Minister of Commerce and Industry and elected Member of Parliament of Barbados was sentenced on Wednesday to 2 years in prison for his role in a scheme to launder bribe payments from a Barbadian insurance company through bank accounts in New York. Social commentator Richard Pitakin says the outcome of this situation proves that no one is above the law.
First of all, we're all accountable, whether it's a minister of government, a public sector servant, somebody in a bank, individuals who get involved in money laundering. And when we do, there is, in fact, it's something that is clearly designed as illegal because of what it does in a country. And it's essentially depriving the public of money that honestly should not be given to individuals in circumstances like that. And to that extent, they must be held responsible for what they do. Ministers of government, more so than many, because they are elected on the basis of being honest and dealing with our monies in a way that we feel, we've given them the confidence and the ability to do so.
Here in St. Lucia, allegations are regularly leveled at public officials, however, most times are not taken to task. Pitakin says when it comes to the public sector, examples need to be made because if situations continue to be swept under the rug, it is a green light for such patterns to continue.
There's so many times you hear about something that happened, but there was no outcome. Nobody got charged because either they paid the money back or it was all hushed up because of contacts and whatnot. And that does happen. It happens, as I say, in the private sector as well. Sometimes people will steal from a company and the company won't take them to court if they promise to give the money back. But what you are doing in a case like that is you are allowing that person to get away and go and steal money from somebody else. So when it comes to the public sector, sometimes we need to set the tone, to make an example. Otherwise, of people that get involved in that. Otherwise, it's going to happen time and time again.
Pitakin asserts that even though the allegations are heard time and time again, not much action is taken.
In order to catch people that may be doing it locally and to ensure that they pay the price and that we get the money that is taxpayers' hard-earned money back, we should be a little more aggressive on the whole issue of money laundering and illegal activity that benefits individuals in the private and public sector. You don't hear too many cases in St. Lucia, unfortunately, but we have the laws. So it makes you wonder, why is it, we're not getting more cases if the laws are there? And everybody talks about corruption, regardless of which administration is in power. And so, as I say, where there's smoke, there's fire. You'd have to think there must be something that goes down. And, the question is, how do you catch these people? So, it's a legal issue, I guess, a legal question, and I can't say whether we are seeing any increase in it or whether it's just a perennial problem.
In addition to his prison sentence, Innes was ordered to pay $36,536.73 in forfeiture. In St. Lucia, the penalty on summary conviction for money laundering is a term of not less than 7 years but not exceeding 15 years or a fine of not less than $50,000 or both. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzague.
Meanwhile, members of the public are weighing in.
The former Commerce Minister in Barbados has been charged for money laundering and will serve 24 months in prison and 2 years supervisory probation when he gets out. Our team took to the streets to get reaction to this situation and find out whether members of the public believe ministers in St. Lucia should be held accountable for their actions as seen in Barbados. Let's hear what they had to say.
Yes, they have to put them to jail because they asking money for us to help the country and they're taking it for themselves. And if they don't do nothing good with it, put them to jail. All of them is the same.
Well, St. Lucian is a two ways. They're not for poor people. They're for people that have already. Because look, they have the welfare, they're paying the poor people, and Right now, today is 28, and the poor people not getting no money yet because they're just suffering. They don't have no food to eat. But I have to put that in the radio to Prime Minister to hear about what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Why they don't pay the poor people in time for them to get a little money from them to eat? So what's going on? They say the paymaster sick. They don't have other paymaster.
But do you think Solution is to follow Barbados steps?
I don't think so. I don't want Barbados. I don't want St. Lucia to I don't want St. Lucia to go in this kind of situation.
My take on that, if you don't have evidence on a minister, you cannot take nothing on him. You must have proof and evidence to say, well, John Doe did that, and here are the documents, and this, that, and the other. Just like there was something going on for some vehicles in England, and I noticed and overheard that the Prime Minister have all the documents on the vehicle. So with the politicians now, I am not saying politicians doesn't do this and do that, but as long as they do get the information, bring evidence, and take them to court. Deal with them in the court, just like how they deal with people.
I have a good idea that everybody should pay for the responsibility of lack of using the funds in the right manner, because they're not establishing the role they're supposed to play by addressing the nation and working with the nation, not against the nation. Because money laundering is a bad thing. Using money unnecessarily in the wrong places is a bad thing. You don't take care of your people, but you take care of others that is not necessarily need the help, like we the people of St. Lucia, because that's what we put you there for, to finance, to help, to invest, but not to steal and to give away from us.
To answer that question honestly, it's not an easy thing to say, because you'll just have the ministers hitting your head. But if a minister does something that is wrong, I guess under the laws and policies stated for ministers, if they do wrong, it should be looked into.
That's why I'm saying is those people that's our servant, but we thinking is that's the boss. We employ them to do something, but when they come, they're doing robbery. But it's time for all the ministers, all of them, to pay for their sins. What they done, it's time for them to start paying. And I'm happy. I like what Maudley doing, and especially she had taken all the seats. I'm very happy. It's time for us to do that in the whole Caribbean, and not Barbados alone. Next is St. Lucia, and go down the line. It's time.
Well, as anything else, once anything that is crooked, you have to find a way to put it straight. So maybe one day soon we will see that happening, because recently I heard, I think he's the Prime Minister of Malawi, he was giving a speech where he found out that how many of his ministers were using the monies that were meant for COVID relief. So, and he said one of them paid back, but the others, some of them were arrested, and he said those that know that they're in it, they better report themselves, because at the end of the day, this is not supposed to be happening. So maybe one day soon it will happen.
Of course, but even the ministers will agree themselves that they are part of Parliament, the highest law-making body of St. Lucia. I don't think any minister would have any opposition to anybody, be it a minister, being a deacon, being a pastor, being a janitor, be held accountable for breaching the law. The law is above everyone else, and the ministers are the ones who in Parliament are enacting the laws in the Parliament. So I'm sure the ministers themselves will agree, and everybody will agree that nobody's above the law. Anybody who breaks the law, could be the small man, the big man, should be prosecuted. As long as there is evidence, yes, of course.
And those were your responses. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzague.
Those were your views. India has reached the devastating figure of 200,000 coronavirus deaths, with the pressure on many hospitals showing no sign of abating amid a surging second wave. The real number of fatalities is thought to be far greater, with many not being officially recorded. Hospitals in numerous cities are being pushed to the brink. Oxygen supplies are dangerously low, and makeshift funeral pyres burn day and night. Meanwhile, a thriving black market has emerged as people scramble to help their desperately ill family and friends. More in this BBC report.
Years of training, But nothing could have prepared them for this. Manjusha Matthew, a nurse and the mother of 3 young children. A new patient is brought in.
सीमा ऑक्सीजन मास्क लेके आ जाओ खड़ा कर दिया बॉक्स में अरे ऑक्सीजन सिलेंडर अभी रुको
She's constantly scanning how others are holding up. Treating as many as they can.
सब लोग सोच रहे हमारे हाथ से ठीक हो जाएगा.
People say, "Sister, please save our loved one." They call us God. That makes us so emotional because we can only do so much.
Even हम भी emotional हो जाते हैं.
With resources so short, they're having to choose who they might save. Decisions they should never have had to make.
बीच-बीच में हमको रोना भी होते. वो feelings हमको वो तो नींद में भी
At times we break down.
वैसे तो
Some nights I wake up crying, but I also feel a sense of satisfaction that I'm doing something to help.
हम आसपास में discuss.
This is a hospital in a big city and out of reach for most Indians. The situation at this point is so difficult that all the people who work here, everyone who's exposing themselves to risk on a daily basis, knows that if they or their families were to get sick, even they would struggle to find the right medical care. In a city overrun, it's hard to leave the trauma behind. The risks follow you home too. Manjusha's children know not to hug her when she's just back from hospital. But they're too young to fully understand what their mother does. Her frontline role at one of the most grim times in India's history. Yogita Lamai, BBC News, Delhi.
This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. We'll be right back.